Part 1. Was I crazy to think Claire was slipping away? For 14 years, we'd built a life together. 2 kids, Sarah, now 13, and Jake, 11. We'd tied the knot right after graduation, young and reckless, drunk on love. But time can erode even the strongest bonds, especially if one of you starts craving something else. I was done wrestling with doubts in the dark. I needed to see for myself if our marriage was worth saving or just a wreck waiting to sink. So here I was, pulling up to the Marriott in Richmond on a crisp April evening, determined to confront whatever was happening in room 208, where Claire was supposedly at an insurance seminar. The hotel's massive glass doors spun lazily as I stepped into the lobby. Marble floors gleamed under chandeliers, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and overpriced coffee. Everything screamed luxury, the kind of place that overcharges for valet and skimps on truth. I half expected a guard to block my path, but confidence is a skeleton key in places like this. I strode to the front desk, where a young clerk in a pristine vest looked up. "Evening, sir. Can I assist you?" he asked, his smile practiced. I slid my ID across the counter, keeping my voice steady. "I'm Adam Taylor, here to see my wife, Claire Taylor, at her insurance conference in room 208. She left a key for me." He tapped at his keyboard, gave me a quick glance, then handed over a key card. "Here you go, Mr. Taylor. Enjoy your visit." My pulse hammered as I thanked him, the card slick in my sweaty palm. The elevator's hum felt like a countdown. Overhead lights buzzed too brightly, reflecting off the mirrored walls, making my reflection look like a man on the edge. I told myself I was ready for anything, but my clammy hands betrayed the lie. The door slid open on the second floor, and I stepped onto a hallway carpeted in faded burgundy. My boots sank slightly with each step toward room 208. At the door, I slid the key card in, heart pounding as the lock beeped green. I pushed it open, slow and silent, the hinges whispering my arrival. Claire sat at a small desk in the corner, papers spread out, her pen tapping rhythmically. She turned, her hazel eyes widening as she caught sight of me. "Adam, you nearly gave me a heart attack." I forced a grin, my voice light despite the storm inside. "Thought I'd drop by, surprise you. Even brought my good jacket for a nice dinner out." For a moment, her face froze. Guilt, maybe. Then a warm smile broke through. "That's so thoughtful. I didn't expect you." She stood, brushing her blouse smooth, and crossed the room to wrap her arms around me. I braced for her to push me away, to guard some secret, but instead, she pressed her lips to mine, familiar and soft. My stomach twisted. Those were the lips I'd imagined cursing if she'd betrayed me. She pulled back, her smile bright. "Stay the night. They gave me a decent room. You can help me unwind after these boring seminars." Her tone was so easy, so inviting, it almost dulled my suspicions. "Sounds good," I said, playing along, though my mind screamed she was too good at this. I could use a break myself. She kissed me again, her fingers brushing my shoulders, then stepped back. "Let me hop in the shower real quick, then we'll pick a place to eat, okay?" Humming softly, she glided to the bathroom, the door clicking shut behind her. The shower hissed to life, water pattering like distant rain. I kicked off my boots, the room's quiet pressing against me. It was tidy, no stray clothes, no second toothbrush, nothing screaming of fair. Maybe I'd misread everything. My head throbbed from the 2-hour drive from Norfolk, my body begging me to believe her. But doubt clung like damp air. On the dresser sat her oversized toiletry bag, its zipper glinting under the lamp. I wandered over, telling myself I just needed aspirin, but my hands had other plans. Unzipping it, I found the usual: lipstick, bobby pins, a tiny brush. Then my fingers brushed something else, a pack of 6 condoms. My blood ran cold. After Jake was born, Claire's birth control pills had wrecked her hormones, so I'd gotten a vasectomy. We hadn't needed condoms in years. Yet here they were, tucked in her bag like a confession. My hands shook as I stared at the pack. There was only one explanation. She was sleeping with someone else. The betrayal hit like a punch, my trust crumbling like dry leaves. Rage surged, and I acted before I could think. Digging in the bag, I found a safety pin. With quick, sharp jabs, I pierced tiny holes through each condom, my breath ragged. It wasn't rational, but it felt like reclaiming something, planting a trap for her and her lover. I tucked the pin in my pocket, zipping the bag shut as the shower's hum stopped. My phone sat on the nightstand. I grabbed it, dialing Rob, my oldest friend, the kind of guy who'd have my back no matter what. "Hey man," I whispered, glancing at the bathroom door. "I need a favor. In an hour, call me with some emergency I can't ignore. A flooded basement at the community center, something big to pull me back home." Rob didn't hesitate. "Got it, brother. 1 hour." I hung up, my plan solidifying as the bathroom door creaked open. Claire stepped out, towel-wrapped, her smile still bright. But I wasn't buying it anymore. Part 2. We dressed and headed to the hotel's restaurant, the clink of glasses and murmur of voices filling the air with false cheer. Claire seemed buoyant, ordering a petite sirloin and a glass of Pinot Grigio, her smile too bright, like she was trying to sell me on her innocence. I went for a ribeye and a double bourbon, hoping the burn would quiet the storm in my gut. "So," I said, keeping my voice even, "how's the conference going?" She shrugged, swirling her wine. "It's fine. Insurance seminars are tedious, but they're part of the job." Then, with a slight edge, she added, "You never seem curious about what I do." Her nerves stung. She was turning it on me, like I was the one neglecting her world. Funny, considering I was now obsessed with every detail of it. We talked about Sarah and Jake, next month's bills, small stuff that felt like a script. My shoulders stayed tight, the tension coiling like a spring. Right on time, my phone buzzed. Rob, my lifeline. I stepped away from the table, answering with a practiced frown. "Yeah, Rob? A burst pipe at the community center? Damn, that's bad." I played it up, loud enough for Claire to hear. "All right, I'll head back now." I lingered by the wall for a minute, letting the call look real, then returned to the table. Claire's face was a mix of a smirk and a pout. "Everything okay?" she asked. I spun the story. Plumbing disaster. Me as the only guy who could fix it. "Really, Adam? Tonight?" She sighed, her tone dripping with fake disappointment. "We just got here." I gave her my best apologetic shrug. "I know, babe, I hate this. But if I don't handle it, they'll cancel classes tomorrow. You know how that goes." She pushed her plate aside, muttering, "Fine, go play hero." Her lack of pushback screamed louder than words. She was probably thrilled I was leaving, already planning to call her lover, maybe break out those tampered condoms. We rode the elevator back to her room, the air thick with unspoken truths. As the doors parted, a tall guy stepped out, his grin sharp and self-assured. "Claire," he said, like they were old pals, then turned to me, hand extended. "You must be Adam. I'm Tom Bradley. I work with your wife." Late 30s, slick hair, chiseled jaw, a watch that probably cost more than my truck. His smile was smug, like he owned the room. Claire's eyes lit up, a flicker of something too familiar. This was him, the guy who held her secrets. "Tom," I said, gripping his hand harder than necessary. "Good to meet you." He strolled off down the hall, and I fought the urge to slam him into the wall, to demand answers. But I played it cool, walking Claire to her room. I said goodbye, promised to call tomorrow, and caught a glint in her eye. Relief, maybe, or something sharper, like anticipation. I left, the drive home a blur of dark roads and fading city glow, my mind wrestling with whether I could face this fight. The Claire I'd loved for years was a liar, and all I had was a pack of condoms. No proof anyone would believe. I needed something solid to expose her. 2 days later, Claire breezed back home, her cheer almost smug, chatting about how draining the conference was. Not a word about Tom, no hint of regret. She pecked my cheek, then flitted around the kitchen, humming like we were some happy sitcom couple. I swallowed my rage, keeping my face neutral, but inside, I was burning. That Saturday, her company, Freedom Insurance, threw their annual family picnic at a sprawling park outside Richmond. It was the usual affair, carnival rides, balloon arches, cotton candy sticky on kids' fingers. Sarah and Jake were buzzing with excitement, but my stomach churned at the thought of seeing Tom strut around, probably winking at Claire. For the kids, I forced a smile, piling us into the car. Claire looked stunning, her fitted sweater and jeans hugging her curves. She'd stood before the mirror that morning, tossing her hair, dabbing on lip gloss with a flourish that felt like a taunt. "You look good," I said, my voice flat. "Thanks," she shot back, flipping her hair. "Would have been nice if you didn't sound so robotic." I let it go, the air between us crackling. At the park, we signed in, grabbed some branded tote bags, and Claire was instantly swept up by her coworkers, laughing too loud at their lame jokes. I hung back with the kids, watching Tom work the crowd, shaking hands like a politician, his charm oozing. Then a woman approached, tall, auburn-haired, with sharp blue eyes and a crisp linen blouse. "You're Claire's husband, right?" "Adam Taylor," she said softly. I nodded, sizing her up. "And you are?" Her smile was tight. "Janet Bradley, Tom's wife." My jaw tightened. Tom's wife. Here was the woman married to the man I was sure was sleeping with Claire. She was striking, carrying herself with a quiet grace that turned heads. We chatted about the weather, the picnic's turnout, but as we drifted from the crowd, her voice dropped. "Look, Adam, I know about Claire and Tom. I've known for months." My stomach lurched, the words hitting like a spark in dry grass. "You knew?" She nodded, glancing over my shoulder. "I've tried everything to stop him. He denies it when I confront him. I even hired a private investigator." My pulse quickened, a jolt of hope cutting through the fog. "Then you've got proof?" "Photos." Her grim smile confirmed it, and suddenly, the game had changed. Part 3. Morning light filtered through the kitchen blinds as I told Claire I had errands to run. She barely glanced up from her coffee, muttering about shopping with a friend. Perfect. I dropped Sarah and Jake at my parents' place and drove to Maple Lane, where tidy bungalows lined the street, their lawns dotted with blooming azaleas. Janet's house sat at the cul-de-sac's end, a cheery yellow cottage with tulip beds framing the porch. She opened the door in a cozy sweater and jeans, her auburn hair pulled back, her smile tired but warm. "Morning, Adam," she said, waving me inside. The house smelled of fresh coffee and sandalwood, its warm tones and soft lighting a stark contrast to my churning thoughts. She led me to a small study, where a monitor glowed on a desk, showing a grainy motel room, empty, with a sagging bed and faded curtains. "Sit," Janet said, handing me a cola, the cold soothing my dry throat. "My PI's got cameras in that motel. Tom's predictable, books the same room every golf day." Her voice cracked slightly, and I saw the weight she carried. We waited, filling the silence with tense small talk about the kids and work. Then she opened a thick folder, spilling out photos, Claire and Tom slipping into motels, leaving diners, once even locked in a kiss in a dimly lit parking deck. She had call logs, voice recordings, enough to ruin them both. My gut twisted as I sifted through the evidence, each image a blade. For months, I lived with dread, but no proof. Now, it was real, and it hit like a sledgehammer. The screen flickered. Tom walked in, golf shirt crisp, Claire right behind him, her blouse half unbuttoned, hair swept up. They kissed hungrily, tearing at each other's clothes, and within moments, they were bare. My fist clenched, nails biting my palms. The woman I'd loved since high school was there, entwined with a man I barely knew. 2 minutes was all I could stomach. "Enough," I rasped. Janet's face was ashen. "Same," she said, cutting the feed. "My PI will burn a DVD." We spent an hour plotting. Janet would share her evidence. I'd do the same. If Claire and Tom fought our divorces, we'd bury them with proof. As the talk wound down, Janet offered to show me her backyard koi ponds, a quirky passion of hers. Grateful for the distraction, I followed her outside. Stone paths wove through lush greenery, 3 ponds shimmering with colorful fish gliding beneath lily pads. The gentle trickle of a waterfall calmed my nerves, and we chatted about her filtration systems while I shared my plumbing know-how. For a moment, the weight lifted, and we laughed, 2 strangers bonded by betrayal. "I'm sorry this is happening," she said as she walked me to the door, her hand lingering on the frame. "But we're not alone, right?" I nodded. "We'll get through it." Over the next few weeks, I tracked Claire's routine like a hawk. Each time I heard the shower running, I checked her toiletry bag, finding fresh condoms every time. I kept a safety pin handy, jabbing holes in them, picturing her shock if she ever found out. It was petty, but it felt like control. Claire, meanwhile, grew bolder, her arrogance seeping through. She'd snapped that I didn't value her enough, that I was too narrow-minded. I started to think she loved the thrill of her double life, devoted mom by day, Tom's lover whenever she could slip away. One Thursday night, after the kids were asleep, I cornered her in the living room, the TV blaring some trashy reality show. "Claire, we gotta talk about your job." She didn't mute the volume, just rolled her eyes. "We've been over this. What's your deal?" I leaned forward, voice steady. "I want you to quit Freedom Insurance. I don't trust the vibe there or Tom Bradley. He's bad news." She scoffed, her laugh sharp. "You're obsessed. Tom's just a colleague. I'm not quitting because you're paranoid." I pressed harder. "It's not paranoia. I see how you act around him." She stood, switching off the TV with a flourish. Adam, grow up. Stop blaming me for your jealousy. I'm done with this. She stormed upstairs, leaving me simmering in fury. Janet and I kept in touch, sharing updates like spies. The kids dubbed her the Fish Lady, thrilled to visit her ponds on nights Claire and Tom met up. We'd watch movies at her place, the stark contrast to my home's tension. Janet filed for divorce first, and Tom fought dirty, throwing legal threats about privacy violations. Her lawyer shredded him with the evidence, photos, calls, that motel footage. Claire, though, seemed untouchable, never questioning my late nights or suspecting my alliance with Janet. Maybe guilt silenced her, or maybe she just didn't care. Then one evening, she dropped a bomb. At the kitchen table, she swirled a glass of Merlot, her eyes glinting with something new. Part 4. Later, I rifled through Claire's purse while she slept, finding crumpled receipts from the women's health clinic. My heart sank, suspicion roaring to life. Was she planning an abortion? Those condoms I'd sabotaged, had they led to this? Was she carrying Tom's kid? I had to know. The next day, I drove to the clinic in Richmond, a squat brick building with faded signage. Most places stonewalled me, citing privacy, but the clinic let me sign a consent form as her spouse. I played dumb, flashing a sheepish grin. Just here to sign whatever you need. Make sure we're all set. The receptionist checked her system, then handed me a file. I signed, glancing at the details. Thursday, 10 a.m. My pulse thundered. Claire was pregnant, likely with Tom's child, and my tampering might have caused it. Shock, rage, regret, and a dark satisfaction collided in my chest. She'd cheated, and now she was scrambling to hide the consequences. I tore out of the clinic, my focus razor-sharp. No amicable split now. She'd played dirty, and I'd match her. I drove 3 hours to Laura's place in Virginia Beach, where Claire had arrived the night before. Laura's husband, Mike, a burly ex-contractor who could probably lift a car, answered the door. The air was heavy as I stepped inside. Claire's eyes narrowed, arms crossed tight. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. I forced a tight smile. "Thought I'd drop by. Kids are with my folks, so I took a few days off since you're on vacation." Laura shot Mike a nervous look. He tried for a friendly grin. "Hey, the more, the merrier," he mumbled, but Claire's jaw tightened. "I didn't ask you to come." I shrugged. "I'm here anyway." Silence hung like a fog. Mike cleared his throat. "How about fishing tomorrow, Adam? My pal Dave's got a boat. We can hit the lake, pop some beers, let the ladies chill." I nodded, playing along. "Sounds good." Next morning, I stood by the car, arms folded, refusing to go. Mike's face reddened, his voice rising, but I brushed him off. "Not feeling it, man." He and Dave left, grumbling, their truck kicking up gravel. Claire and Laura tried to shoo me out, saying they had errands. Claire's tone was sharp. "Go do something, Adam." I lingered, sipping coffee at the kitchen table, ignoring their glares. When Claire stepped out, I swiped her phone, silencing it as it buzzed with Mike's calls. Laura muttered angrily into her own phone, likely trying to reschedule Claire's appointment. I blocked every move they made to slip away. By afternoon, Mike stormed back, exasperated, like he'd been yelling into a void all day. Laura tore into him for not dragging me along. Claire stood silent, her face a mix of frustration and barely concealed panic. That evening, I cornered Claire in Laura's kitchen, the overhead light carving harsh shadows across her face. "Claire," I said, voice steady, "you're done at Freedom Insurance. Quit, or I'm filing for divorce." Her eyes blazed, fury twisting her features. "Enough. I'm not quitting just because you're paranoid." I took a breath, pulling divorce papers from a folder I'd brought. I slid them across the table. "Sign or don't, but I'll file either way." Her jaw dropped, then she sneered. "You can't divorce me over my job. That's not a reason." I leaned in, voice low. "Adultery is." I fanned out photos Claire and Tom, tangled in motel doorways, half-dressed. Her face paled, eyes wide. "You bastard. You've been spying." She lunged for the photos, but I caught her wrist. "How else was I supposed to know? You've made a fool of me." Her lips trembled. "You had no right. This is sick. You set me up." I shook my head. "You did that when you climbed into Tom's bed." Footsteps thumped. Laura and Mike rushed in. Laura gasped at the photos. Claire shook with rage, her eyes darting from the pictures to me. Then my phone buzzed, Dad, saying he'd arrived with a truck full of Claire's stuff from our house. I ended the call as Claire glared, tears welling. "What did you do?" I leaned close, voice cold as steel. "Changed the locks. Packed your things. If you need anything, send Manya." I left half our account money in an envelope for you, signed over your car title. You'll see the kids once a week, maybe overnight once a month, but only after you sign a notarized statement about your affair. Claire sputtered, "You can't." I cut her off, dropping the final blow. "I know you're pregnant." Thursday, 10 a.m., Women's Health Clinic. I set the safety pin on the table. "I've been poking holes in your condoms for weeks. You burned through dozens in days. Now you're pregnant with Tom's kid, or were, until you planned to fix it Thursday." Her scream ripped through the room, tears streaming. "You're insane." My face was stone. "You started this." Laura wrapped her arms around Claire, both sobbing like I was the villain. Mike looked horrified, frozen in place. Part 5. In the weeks that followed, Freedom Insurance canned Claire and Tom. Gossip spread like a brush fire after Janet threatened to sue, her evidence of their affair airtight. Claire refused to sign any confession, but it didn't matter. The photos, recordings, and motel footage were undeniable. She moved in with Laura for good, and whispers floated around that Tom was footing her bills, maybe out of guilt for the child she might have carried. I didn't care. Janet's divorce from Tom wrapped up fast. Her lawyer crushed him, leaving her with the house, investments, and alimony. Tom fought, throwing tantrums in court, but he walked away with nothing. My own divorce from Claire finalized in May, 4 months later. She didn't contest it, probably knew she'd lose. She and Tom bolted to Raleigh, where he landed a new gig. Fine by me. Sarah and Jake, now 13 and 11, barely mentioned her. I was stunned at first, but they'd felt her coldness for years, her arrogance seeping into their lives like damp rot. Then Tom vanished. Poof, gone without a word to Claire. Some said he fled a messy life. Others claimed old debts caught up. A story circulated that he got jumped outside a dive bar, left with cracked ribs and a brutal injury below the belt. Karma, some called it. Others shrugged it off as random violence. Either way, Claire was left high and dry, slinking back to Laura's cramped duplex. Laura's marriage to Mike fell apart when he took a job on an oil rig in the Gulf, mailing divorce papers without a backward glance. The sisters were stuck together, broke and bickering, each blaming the other for their wrecked lives. I heard they fought over everything: money, men, the past, trapped in a cycle of regret. My revenge wasn't loud or violent. It was exposing Claire's double life, dismantling her smug world. She lost her job, her lover, her cushy lifestyle. Whatever happened with her pregnancy, whether she went through with the procedure or not, I didn't ask. That was her burden now. Meanwhile, Janet and I grew closer, cautious at first. We weren't diving into romance headfirst, too much baggage, too many scars. But her company felt like a warm fire after a long freeze. Sarah and Jake adored her, splashing around her koi ponds, learning to feed the fish with care. We took short drives to the coast, visited aquariums, turned quiet Saturdays into lazy afternoons by the water. By August, we were talking marriage, not out of desperation, but because we'd weathered the same storm and found peace together. Janet sold her consulting firm, using the cash to buy a sprawling 5-bedroom house with a pool the kids cannonballed into all summer. One evening, she led me to the garage, a sly grin on her face. There sat a gleaming Jaguar XK 120, almost identical to the one Claire made me sell years ago. Janet had hunted it down, a gift to mend a piece of my past. Seeing its sleek curves under the garage lights, I felt warmth creep back into my heart, a joy I thought I'd lost. Claire's life, from what I heard, was a mess. She and Laura shared a tiny attic room, scraping by, their dreams of easy money gone. I slept easy, my conscience clear. I'd torn down Claire's lies, not with fists but with truth, leaving her to face the wreckage she'd built. Janet and I, though, were building something new. The kids thrived in her calm, open home, free of secrets and sneers. No more arrogance tainting the air. Then Claire called, her voicemail a desperate plea to see Sarah and Jake. She apologized, her voice shaky, but I wasn't swayed. I called her back, my tone firm. "Sign a notarized statement about your affair, then we'll talk supervised visits." Her sobs turned to curses, accusing me of ruining her life, downplaying her betrayal. I hung up, blocking her number for good. No more games. Janet and I married in a quiet December ceremony, the kids grinning beside us. We celebrated by the koi ponds, their scales glinting under moonlight as we tossed in food, laughing. We settled into the new house, hosting family dinners, planning trips to Japan to tour koi farms. Our life was steady, warm, a sharp contrast to the chaos Claire had dragged me through. The kids adjusted fast, drawn to Janet's kindness and the peace she brought. No lies, no hidden agendas, just a home where love didn't come with strings. The end.